Doris Parsons.
Here.
Jean Reed.
Here.
Mitzi Roszewski.
Here.
Michael Eddy.
Here.
Tara Leroy.
Here.
Zachary Rakowski.
Here.
Christiana Williams.
Here. Okay, would you join me for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we have a motion to appoint a temporary chairperson for the meeting?
I'll make a motion to appoint a temporary chairperson for the meeting.
You'd have to name someone.
And Doris Parsons.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any other nominations? All those in favor say aye. Serve as temporary chair. We need a motion to appoint recording secretary and parliamentarian.
I'll make a motion to appoint recording secretary of Carly and parliamentarian Michael Eddy.
For a second. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. We need a motion to approve the minutes from the 2019 annual meeting. They are on page 5 of the packet you have in front of you.
I'll make a motion to approve with one correction.
You need what?
We need to make a
There
correction.
was a typo.
There's a date, an incorrect date of paragraph. Where it says the next annual meeting scheduled for Thursday, October 22nd, it should say 2020 instead of 2019. That's okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, report of school board president, that would be me. I just have some notes I wanted to share. I've been to a few district annual meetings, but I've never actually really been excited to be at a district annual meeting. You know, they're just the annual meeting, you hear information, but this one's got just, this is an awesome one. Because seriously, if you think about it, this one wasn't even supposed to take place. I'm socially distanced, I'm gonna take this off so I can not be muffled. So it's been a year since our last annual meeting, and at that time, a lot of people were actually thinking that it literally was our last annual meeting for Palmyra-Eagle. District leadership had at that time already voted to go forward with dissolution. The DPI, Board of Appeals, was already, they had set their meetings. We had one coming up 2 weeks from this date. And it just really looked like all we occurred was there's no chance to open the doors this coming school year, and that perhaps we were going to have to close last March. That we just couldn't do it. So it looked and felt really dismal at that time. However, there's a popular quote that I really like that states, people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that actually do it. And that really proved true in this case. So despite what seemed to be the inevitable facts on so many fronts of why this district couldn't possibly survive, there was a growing number of people who had the crazy notion that it could, and that they deserve this district, should have a chance to survive, and they're willing to fight hard against what appeared to be insurmountable odds to save it. Students, staff, community members, alumni, so many people came together, they wrote letters, they spoke at the hearings, they poured their hearts into convincing that appeals board that we deserved a second chance and that they should let us try. And it worked. It was in this room last January that we got a 6-1 vote that said, no, you're not dissolving this district. And I can still hear the cheers and claps from all the people that were packed into here. It was just awesome. So look where we are today. Not only did we survive, but I think we're on a fantastic road to thrive. There's positive, forward-moving things happening across the district, inside the classroom and out in our community. New programs such as our all-day 4K and before and after school care have already been implemented. Bringing our elementary students and educators together in the same building has proved to be so positive for not just educational reasons, but also for community bonding and strengthening. Bringing our 6th graders up to this building is country conference, but our boys team won it. First place out of 13 teams. These are great things. The graduating class of 2020, which we actually ran the whole graduation this summer, they received over $500,000 in scholarships to go on to colleges and trade schools. That's fantastic. That's a lot. And this year, we're proud to have a Merit Scholar semifinalist in our senior class. Finals will be named in February, and we're just looking forward to celebrating that as well. The list of positive things go on and on. And at this time, I'd like to offer a very heartfelt thank you to everyone who believed in this school district enough to stay and to stick with it. The students and their families that stayed, the staff members that stayed, and even the new staff members, which we've got some of them in this room, that were ready to jump on the bandwagon and join us and be part of what we can do here. I look at those signs when you go past healthcare facilities now, and you need them here. The ones that say heroes work here, because heroes work here. Heroes teach here, and heroes attend classes here. And that's just so important, and I think we all need to celebrate that. I don't think anyone can argue that this is indeed a school district that deserves saving. As we talked a little bit about at the last board meeting, homecoming looked a little different this year, but what a wonderful feeling, knowing that we have a home to come back to, and we will for a long time to come. So I think Panther Pride is stronger than ever, and here to stay. And I feel like you should all get up and sing the school song. And I'll end that because you're going to hear really good other news about the budget. So let's move on to that. Presentation of the 2021 proposed budget and unaudited financials.
Okay, very good news. Not as good news as yours, but some pretty good news here. Basically, you saw Alfredo sent out the notice that we got a slight upgrade in the bond rating, and I think there's more to come on that. I'm going to be actually working with the Baird folks tomorrow on a plan of action to get us up into the at least triple B plus, maybe even higher than that. I mean, based on what I've seen in my work in public finance over the years, the school districts, I think the credit rating, certainly should be higher, and we're going to keep pushing for that. So, with that said, we'll get into the budget. I do have to tell you one thing. I told you that in high school we played Palmyra, and they were one of our top rivals. This last weekend, one of my teammates, football, basketball, who I haven't seen in 20 years, emails me. He says, "Come on, man, really, Palmyra?" So he's apparently he hasn't gotten over the competition. It's okay. I said it's great. I said it matches my university alma mater's color, so that works for me. But okay, do we want to start the? These are some of the things, and again, a lot of these have been put in place prior to my arrival, but I think we're in a really good place in terms of we are right-sized for the number of students we have, and that's a good thing. But we're also sized so that when students start coming back, when they realize there's going to be a long-term history for this school district, we're in a good place to add those additional students. We won't have to worry about physical space or anything else. So, Alfredo, do you want to talk about these things?
Yes, thank you. And the rating was on 5, by the way. Very good news about that. This is just about our financial objectives for the year. Yes, we have restructured the district. It's working, but we also have to find other areas to just have, right size as well that we haven't yet. So that is the focus of the first one, to focus on bringing efficiency to our financial resources. And then also the hope is to bring equity to our salary structure. It's basically to pay the teachers better, have some more equity, and be able to bring, those that are here, give them a better life and having a better resources for themselves, and also those that would want to join us in the future to be able to, have a great pool of teachers to come teach in our schools. It's also a push to lower health insurance costs. There was some issues in the past, and we are going to try to solve those as well. And better, more efficient processes in finance, in the whole business area, being able to run things faster. It's always, difficult in the beginning. We're all starting and we're learning and we're getting things up to speed, but I think we're getting there and we should be in a very good place, perhaps December, beginning of next year. Then there's also the creation of a 5-year plan for the district projection, and have all the elements and fundamentals that will allow us to project our future and be able to say, okay, this is where we're going to be in curriculum and instruction, staff, where's our IT going to be, and buildings and grounds and food service. And I think we've seen a lot of work in buildings and grounds. IT, we're pretty solid. I would still probably have to do more curriculum and instruction, and the food service is also pretty good, but we need to work on it. Anything you?
No, just that even though we have a 5-year plan, I only like doing financial projections in 3 years. Because you get into 4 and 5, there's so many unknown. So you get really conservative, and it always looks bad, and it never ever is that bad. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've never seen a 5-year projection hold through. Usually 2 or 3 out, you can get pretty accurate. But you're getting into 5 with the way our legislature deals with school finance. You're not getting a true picture in year 4 and 5. I think that was part of the problem a year ago, looking at the information here, is the forecast was so bad in year 4 and 5. It was like there's no hope. But that forecast was off in year 4 and 5. Not accurate, as were some of the things in years 2 and 3. And we'll see that you'll see why that wasn't accurate when we get to that point. Enrollments, you can see the yellow lines there. The 993 is our total enrollments that live in the city, resident students that live in the city, and obviously we've lost some of those to open enrollment, and that's a group we're going to really make a great effort in getting back. Right now, our actual number of kids that we're educating is 593. Anything you want to add on that?
I want to note that when you add the homeschool students to the whole enrollment in district, you can see that the last 2 years, so 1920 and 2021, we see a little bit of a stop in the fall of the kids and residents in the district. So that points to hopefully some sort of growth in our student population and children population that we can then perhaps in the future have access to, and they will be coming to our school district. And the thing is just keeping them so that orange line goes down, as it was kind of going down from 16 to 19, but basically because of the dissolution news and all the problems that we're seeing that didn't need to materialize, that was a big scare that took out some of our population. And then in the last year, that's also COVID related. You can see a big spike a somewhat big spike in the homeschooled students. That is a trend that's happening in the whole state. So, and probably the United States, I haven't seen data for the United States, but probably the US, people are just keeping their kids home because of the disease. And so we're hoping that next year those kids are going to be somewhat easy to get back.
One more point, the number in 4K is very encouraging, and if all those students matriculated in kindergarten, you hopefully will see an upswing on enrollments over time. Revenues, I'll let Alfredo fill in on this one.
Well, there's not a whole lot there, but you see the general fund is getting to about $12 million. Our total budget for this year is $15.6 million in revenues. we're expecting lower state revenues, as you can see there, the 372 less, 1,000 less. That's also because of the enrollment. We have less kids, we get less aid, and we can see a little increase in the local sources, which is property taxes. That's the government of the state had an increase in the revenue limit, and that's why we have that. Those are probably the highlights for this one.
Yeah, and expenses, again, as I noticed, expenses represent the right sizing of the district, staffing and other areas that are right sized for approximately 600 students.
Okay, so here we go into our fund balance, and I want to have, well, I know we have at the bottom the net result, which is for last year it was 380,000 up, and so our fund balance this year, the total at least, everything is higher because of that. We're forecasting a surplus of only $183,000 for this next year. This is a conservative budget. It's not a super, what we would expect to happen actually, but we have to be conservative, or else we could have some surprises during the year. Our general fund balance is pretty solid as well, $360,000. Sorry, $3,680,000. So that gives you the idea that with all the sacrifices that were done last year, and everyone that got together to solve this puzzle of why is Palmyra unable to survive, that was done pretty well, and we now have a forecast of a good fund balance there. I think we're in a very strong position in any case.
Those are the big pieces. Obviously, just a chart showing the direction of revenues and expenses, and unfortunately, that little line still remains higher than the orange one, which is the expense. So we're in good shape there. But it kind of shows the trend of what's happened. And while that might be concerning, keep in mind that as I'm tired of the same line right side, but I mean, it does recognize that we're in a position, we've got the right number of revenues and expenditures for the number of students we have.
I just want to add to it that the only year that there's no surplus has been 17-18. So that tells you a lot about how the district was behaving in the years where we were told it was going to have to dissolve. So just something to keep in mind. We have been in a good position. And again, it is that right sizing that needed to happen that helped us.
Mill rate, and you can see where the orange line or the purple line there, and you can see we're trending down, so that's good news. So you want to add anything?
So yeah, it's part of it, and this is only showing 2020, this is not showing this year's mill rate, but it is going down slightly, about 0.13 cents for the mill rate. And this is, you see districts that are like Waukesha, Mukwanago. If you have a really big valuation and you have wealthy, homes that are worth a lot of money, that pulls your mill rate lower. And you will see in the next slide how it is, that's very visible. So just remember where Mukwanago and Waukesha are, and they're looking like they're going down. And there's the state as well, which is the orange one. And we're not too far away from the state. So we're doing pretty well, regarding the general state situation. And I don't know that we could be doing that much better. If you can see Whitewater, it's at the top. They have kept it, and perhaps what we need is the support of the population to get ourselves to have not a better mill rate, because when you look at the mill rate, it's just a race to the bottom. It's something that you're not helping your students learn better just because you've got a better mill rate. That better mill rates are obtained by higher valuations. These valuations go up almost every year. So that's just something to keep in mind for the next slide, please.
You can see the yellow Waukesha line, you can see the trend. I call it good management, right? But I don't know if that's probably some good property values. And it does go up because the year before that, in 19, we had passed the $60 million referendum. So starting in 20, we start making debt payments. This is, I don't know if this is good news or bad news. The only positive thing about a strong tax base per student is if they start messing around with the state revenues, and we all know that the state had less revenue this year because of COVID. That impacts, that obviously impacts general aid, but we have that strong base. If they do start decreasing aid, there's less of an impact on a district like ours.
And we would have gotten a better, revenue per student, tax revenue per student, but the state, because of the enrollment, kind of lowered their aid. So we're getting a considerable, well, you saw it in the previous slides, about $372,000 less in state aid. I have to point out that this is why I was talking about the Mukwonago and Waukesha. If you can see that the actual revenue, even though it looked like it was going down, the actual revenue, people are paying more for the districts as well. So, and we're not too far away from what is Waukesha and East Troy. Whitewater and the state, we're under the state average for expenses and revenues. So this tells you that we're doing pretty well. It's an efficient school district. We should have some, room to grow this, and hopefully in the future we can see some growth in that. Because as you can see, we are not doing so well in the mill rate in the previous slide, but when you look at it at dollars, the dollar value of this school district is pretty good, we have to say. I guess that's something that needs to be said to the community, and hopefully they will, get to see things differently than just focusing on a mill rate, which doesn't tell you that much.
Right, one of the impacts on the property taxes with our general aid is there's very good land value in this district. And as a result, when they run the aid formula, we're in what's called negative tertiary. So for every extra dollar we spend, we lose 30–40% of that in aid on those extra dollars. The good news is if we run a surplus, that's a benefit to us under the current revenue formula. So projecting having surpluses the last few years and then projecting forward, that will actually have a positive impact on our property taxes. And here's the proposed levy. Again, I'll let Alfredo get into this, but you can see that we're heading in a good direction on this. And again, part of that is we've got a little more state aid than projected, again, because of the surplus. And we also have some growth in property values.
Well, and just we're increasing the revenues per student by $84 this year, but because of the enrollment, we're getting less. We're taxing less the population, and so property taxes should. That's why we have a reduced mill rate by 0.13 cents for the mill.
Stable financial, that kind of undersells it. I mean, it's looking very strong. You've got a fund balance that's going to likely exceed 25%, and that's a good number. The bond rating agency would like to see 15%, so we've got some room to work on that one. One of the things I do want to work on is fund balance policy. You do have a fund balance policy, but I think we need to plug in numbers or change that to represent what we're trying to do here, which is also going to help with that uptick in the bond rating.
Well, so, and I would say that to just have to keep in mind that we need to pay we don't need to borrow that much this year. In your packets, you can see a cash flow. And we basically don't need to borrow, short-term borrow, even though we're going to ask you in the next meeting probably to get a line of credit, just because it's always there, it's safe, it's a safe thing to do. And if we actually need the money because taxes are late, whatever happens, we can always, get that. But yes, Todd is right. This is it's a strong outlook. We do have a good forecast for the school district. We're expecting to see a lot more savings throughout the year, and if they, come true, then we will probably have a much better than expected year. And like I said, this is a conservative budget. It's take it with a grain of salt. So even though enrollment is lower, and we're expecting more students to come back next year, hopefully the enrollment will be a little higher next year, and so that should help us with getting more revenues and being able to do more for our students. The revenues and expenses per student are lower or comparable to districts our size, because that's also important to note. We're not a really big district where your student is just lost and no one really, takes that much notice. But we're a smaller school district where if the kids want to be in sports, they have a much better shot at getting into sports than they would in a larger school district, right? The other one to say is all our debts are payable. They're within our means, our revenue limits for the foreseeable future. So all the debt that has been contracted will be paid perfectly fine. We won't have to dissolve or have any problems in the future with economics, at least from where we can see. And so it's a really good outlook. I think we have a really nice district to grow and to have. If the community supports us, we'll have an even better system for everyone to work with. And I guess Panther Project's back and it's just here to stay.
As Alfredo said, I went to Williams Bay, a small, and the district is about the same size as you noted. We played Palmyra quite often, but I had an opportunity to play three varsity sports. I was in clubs, I was in the band, jazz band, all those things. If I went to the high school my kids went to with almost 2,000 kids, you pretty much had to pick one sport. And, things like music were pretty much out of the question because of the expectations of time and those types of things. But that's the beauty of a Palmyra school district. It offers kids a lot of different opportunities. So. And it's the first district I've seen with an equestrian club. That's great. So I don't know if there's any questions. Alfredo made a really nice comprehensive package, and it's got a lot of information in there. But like I said, I think anyone who reads this or knows where this is going is going to look at that and say, Palmyra is financially stable. There's absolutely no question about it. And you're at a point where your enrollments have pretty much flattened. Enrollment declines have flattened out. And my guess is you get some of those homeschoolers back, you get some of those other kids back who know that Palmyra is going to be here forever, ever, ever. That enrollment is going to start to go up. Keep those 4K kids here at kindergarten, that's going to start that. You want to see kind of an inverted, I a U-shaped enrollment thing, because that means that, you know, you've got some kids going down, and now it's gonna start going back up again. The other issue is most districts in Wisconsin are losing kids. There's just not as many kids in Wisconsin as there were, you know, a couple of years ago. So that's the fact. So when these rating agencies say, well, the issue is declining enrollments, I said, well, that's the issue for probably 75% of the districts in the state, is that they're gonna have declining enrollment. So once we get past that hurdle, we can show the other pieces of financial improvement, and I think we're gonna have a good financial picture. Now that leads then down the road, when you've got a good solid school district at a time where you need either a capital referendum or an operating referendum, people are gonna tend to support it. People will tend to support an organization that's doing well, and I think that's what Palmyra is doing right now. So, if there are questions?
No, thank you for all the work you put into it and for all the great stuff to share.
Very effective,
Okay, 8 resolutions. We have 2 resolutions we need to pass. Resolution A, adoption of the tax levy. Is there a motion?
Madam Chairman, I move that there be a levy tax, school tax in the amount of $9,218,116 to be assessed against all taxable revenues within the district school and to be used to finance the adoption of 2021 budget.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. B, resolution B, fixed board member salaries.
resolution to fix salaries of the school board members. Do I have to read it?
Yeah.
Be it resolved by the electors of Palmyra-Eagle School District that the following annual salaries be adopted for the members of the Board of Education. And
On the agenda page are the current amounts.
$964.28 per member with an additional 100 for each officer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'll just make a note that our policies state that as individual board members, we would have to basically deny receiving a salary before we took the oath of office. I have been looking into things as far as state law goes. State law says that we produce a letter to our treasurer and our clerk by December 2nd, advising that we will not be taking our salaries if that is the option of individual board members. So I just want to throw that out there so everybody's aware.
So, right, so board members have an option of not taking their salary. Obviously, you always have the option of donating it back to whichever area of the district you would like to. Any further discussion? All those in favor?